All right, we are now joined by Daivd Quinn, head coach of the San Jose Sharks, here on Locker Room Cleanout Day. And, you know, Daivd, it's been a tough year. Where are your thoughts right now?
Well, right now it's sitting here wondering, how'd the season go by so fast? Tough season, obviously, from a winning and losing standpoint. Very frustrating. I think we use that word a lot post-game with how our season evolved. And, it's almost like you got to keep it in two halves, all the way up through mid-January when Timo got traded and then all the changes we made. So, you got to keep everything in perspective, too, with the way the season ended. Sometimes you evaluate your year based on what you see the last month of the season, but we really got to take inventory of the totality of the season, what went on before we started making those trades. And, I'm really eager for next year. I really am. I think we got a good core of guys coming back. It's been noted over and over again how close we were in all the tight games we lost and the fashions we lost them in.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to learn from it. And I think we need to get off to a better start next year. 0-5 was a hard hole to come out of. And we've just got to be better from the get-go and obviously be much better at home.
Well, that's a good segue to my next question, because there were a lot of finishes this year that, listen, a bad season happens, but this was like cruel.
Yeah.
Like there were some finishes where I just would think to myself, I'd go home and I'd watch it again. I'd be like, how did that happen? I mean, would you go home and watch the film, or would you not want to right away kind of see it again?
I have to watch it again. And, I said that nobody lost in more frustrating, cruel manner than we did, more painful ways than we did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one thing. We found a different way on different nights to lose in ways that were agonizing. And you scratch your head saying, how did that happen? Oh, that play I hadn't seen before, that play, and it was different guys. So, sometimes when you're coming out of the situation we are, where you've had some tough seasons over the last 3 years, winning becomes contagious, and so does losing. Yeah. And, we've got to find a way to get out of it and finish off games that we had chances to finish. And, we're aware of that. And I think Mike's going to certainly address some of the areas we need to address to get better at. But I feel really good about the core players we have coming back.
Did self-doubt ever enter the equation? Because you have made it to this point in your career for a reason. You're good at organizing these teams. You know what you're doing clearly. But when you see something that happens that's such an aberration, or consistently, did you ever think to yourself, like, am I doing something wrong?
I think coaches always do that. I think you always look in the mirror and second guess some of the things that you can do. There's so many decisions that are made, not only within a game, but within practice and the day-to-day handling of a team, and you're always making sure, is that the right thing to do? Is that? And overall, I felt really good about the job we did. I can't tell you how fortunate I am to have the assistant coaches that I have, from Scotty Gordon to Brian Wiseman to Ryan Wasowski and Tom Spear, and Nick and Cody do a phenomenal job with the video. We're all in it together. I think the players see the way we interact personally, how much respect we have, and how likable the group is as a staff, and the respect we have for each other professionally.
You guys always seemed excited on game day. That's the thing, is like, I understand that there's some losses that stick around, but you were able to forget about it. You guys always seemed fired up and ready to go, talking to the media in the mornings. Before the game, you always looked excited. It didn't seem like there was ever a hangover effect.
Listen, you need to move on quickly in this profession. You cannot let one loss turn into two. You can't let it linger. I thought we did a pretty good job of that as a group. Even though we lost a lot of games back to back, it wasn't because we didn't play well, or we let something from the previous game affect the next game. That's a good sign moving forward here. And there are a lot of things we did well, which will propel us to have success sooner than later. And we've just got to make sure we build off of it. We can't lose sight of that. We got to be a little bit better in certain areas, but I think those are foundational aspects and characteristics that we need to take forward.
How much umbrage did you take from just the chatter of people saying, hey, why are you winning these games at the end of the year? People were talking about draft picks, because if it was me, it would bother me. I'd be like, I'm here to win. I'm not here to worry about that aspect. And I would imagine that would be something that would kind of rub you the wrong way.
I can't imagine standing behind a bench or preparing for a game hoping you lose. I don't understand it. I can't fathom it. I don't think our players fathom it. We're down 3-1 in Edmonton, last game of the season, get a power play in the middle of the second. Our top unit was all tired. We called the timeout. You got to do things the right way, and I think you get rewarded when you do things the right way. I think karma ends up paying you back. We went through this in New York, my first year in New York. We actually won some games at the end of the year. We actually beat Pittsburgh in overtime the last game of the year, and I remember Jeff Gorton and I shaking hands because we went from like 4th worst to 7th worst. And we both said we're going to get rewarded for doing it, and we got the second pick. Yeah. So you just got to keep playing. You got to keep playing, and there's nothing more precious than the integrity of the sport. Mm-hmm. And once you lose the integrity of the sport, what do you have?
I think that's what made it so frustrating this year is that the compete level was clearly so high from the team. There was no quit. There was no, sagging shoulders of more than a moment after giving up a goal. It was a good reset, and the team would continue to fight hard, yet not walk away. I mean, that's got to be encouraging as much as it is frustrating, right?
It is, and it's kind of what I alluded to earlier. I mean, those are characteristics that you can win with. Those are the things that, winning looks, what winning looks like, and there's a lot of things that go into winning. You need enough talent. But then there's about 7 or 8 other characteristics that a particular team or group of people have to acquire together in order to have success. And we check some boxes. Not enough of them, but we check some boxes in areas that we're going to need to be good at and if we're going to have success.
I look at a guy like Logan Couture and his leadership in particular, just because you look at that game against Vegas where I said Logan's not as young as he once was. Who is? He's not as fast as he once was. But he steps back into that lane, almost baiting them into that pass, then jumps into it, steals it, has the breakaway. Like, when you have a guy at this point in a tough year still making those types of plays, seems that bleeds down to the rest of the team, that everybody looks at that and says, in that situation, the captain's making that play. For you as a coach, that's what you want in a captain, right?
And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's funny. When he went on, he was halfway up the ice, I could have walked into the coach's room. I knew he was going to score. That's just – he's always been a big money player. He's always been a guy you can rely on. He's I've only known him a year, and I've got such respect for him, and he's such a likable guy. He's exactly what you want in an organization. And you ask me why I'm optimistic about the future here. He's one of the main reasons.
When you do look at the future, do you think this is year one, that the building blocks were laid the right way, that you got the foundation of your system put in place? Or do you also look at it and say, like, yes, I put in some of these pieces, but now I know these players that much more and how you have to tweak your system? Or is it both?
I think it's both. I think that the players will be more comfortable, the coaches will be more comfortable. No, a lot of that's depending on what our roster is going to look like next fall, too. I mean, Mike has a lot of tough decisions to make, as every general manager does in the National Hockey League. And, let's see what our roster looks like next year. But, it's always easier. I've been, a head coach in 3 different occasions, took over similar situations at BU and in Lake Erie. And both situations were similar to the one we had this year, and the second year was always better.
Yeah, and that's, again, I look at it as, regardless of the change that might happen, everyone on the roster was new to your system this year. Next year, there's going to be more people that are familiar. They'll make it that much easier for everyone, even if they are a newcomer, to understand what is trying to be put in place on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's not only going to be the coaches that are going to be, coaching what we're trying to do. It'll be the players that are back from last year, coaching any new players we might have. So it becomes a lot easier for everybody to get on the same page when the players on the ice certainly are understanding how we're going to go about things.
Have you changed as a coach over the course of this year? I imagine that it's always a work in progress for you of understanding how to communicate your ideas.
I think as a coach, you're always trying to learn and adapt with the players as you move forward here. And, I think we did adapt as the season went on. We were in a completely different situation the last 6 weeks of the season than we were the first 4 or 5 months, so you do have to adapt to those circumstances and when your roster changes like that.
Yeah, but I will say, to your credit, I mean, this team didn't get caught in extended losing like we've seen with other teams in past. We can go back 30 years ago with the bad Sharks team, longer, just overall bad hockey. This team, though, there were still the overtime losses. There was still the fight. There was still the grinds. Do you take pride in that as well?
Yeah, I do. And like I said, I think that really points to why there is optimism moving forward. I think when you have those traits and those characteristics, you just have a better chance to win. I mean, this game is played on such a small surface, and it's so fast that competing and desire and perseverance and grit can overcome talent, more so than ever before, because the league isn't as physical as it used to be. And that's, you can give yourself a fair chance against maybe teams that are more talented when you play that way.
We go back to last summer when you come in. You're much more familiar with San Jose in the Bay Area now, except for the fact that you got about a decade's worth of rain in one winter. It was, listen, man, this is an aberrant situation. It's not the norm. But what surprised you about this hockey market compared to your perceptions when you came in?
Just how loyal our fan base is, and I mentioned this before. I mean, when I took the Ranger job and you talk about visiting buildings, the Shark Tank was at the top of the list and one of the harder places to play. And obviously through the pandemic and, unfortunately the lack of success we've had, our crowds certainly aren't anywhere near what they used to be. But you still feel the passion in the environment in the arena and how loyal our fan base is. And they're going to get rewarded eventually, and it's going to happen sooner than later.
At some point, you will be able to take back from the reflections of the season. And I know obviously you've got some more coaching to do this summer, but how does Daivd Quinn relax? How are you eventually able to step away from it all, even if it is for probably a fleeting moment, because you don't seem like you're a guy who sits still well. But how are you going to relax at some point this summer?
A lot of golf, a lot of beach, a lot of family time.
Nice.
Yep, and I try to bring my family on the course and on the beach, and hopefully they want to join me.
Well, Daivd, I'll let you go, man. Thank you so much. It's been great getting to know you over the course of this first year. Really excited for next year, man. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.